Okay, so what did we talk about? It's been how long time was it since you were here when we recorded the actual podcast?
About a week.
Now we recorded some guitar playing. Yeah, it's been about a week. So what did we talk about? We talked about how did you end up here? You are from Lithuania actually originally and lived in many places.
Everywhere.
So we talked about global identity and travels, which is also your YouTube channel name.
Yes, it is.
In this episode also, this time we have full-time video. On the first half, preparing for the guitar recording, and on the second half, the actual conversation is with video. And I recommend to stay until the end because the two songs are very beautiful. And what else?
About fishing.
Yes.
Fishing at Lake Inari. And
about how
culture.
You made yourself a net and now you're fishing with it.
Yes, catching the first fish and coming here, experiencing the village life in Ivalo. Well, small city. Feels like.
Do you think it's a city?
Well, it's a city, isn't it? But it feels like very small comparing to cities I've lived in before.
But
so
it's
for me, it's more like village.
It's still busy life here.
But yes.
More to do than have time. So I guess, yeah, that's a good recap. So today is 22nd of July, and the second Tärycast begins. So we have in our studio as guest Aušra from Lithuania, and she has just moved in some time ago to Ivalo. When was that actually?
Yeah, so I came first time to Ivalo when it was December 2021. That was the first time.
And how was the path that led you to the decision to move in?
So
first you visited here.
Yes.
So how did you find Ivalo and why did you decide to come here?
Yeah, so maybe first I go backwards a little bit.
Yes.
Why I came to Finland.
Okay.
I received a scholarship with the Erasmus exchange program for a trainship that I could do. And I had to find a place myself where to do it. So I really wanted to go to Iceland. I had my head fixated on that and I was applying. I had to find this location where to go. I wanted to go to a private practice, so all the private practices I was emailing a lot of people and it was a lot of negative responses. Eventually I learned that in Iceland is not enough English speaking people, so my placement would not be possible. It wouldn't be successful for the practical things I want to learn. So then I really wanted to go to Scandinavian countries and I just thought what I like. So I thought best is to go closer to Lithuania. So then because it's a straight line up to Helsinki, it's a 1.5 hour flight from Vilnius to Helsinki, and that worked really good that I got the placement there and I was there for 3 months. So from August last year until the start of December. So that's when first I came to Finland and what I did for those 3 months. And then my placement ended in December, the beginning, a little bit earlier than we expected because I worked on the weekends, so I finished my hours quickly. And then I was like not wanting to go back home yet for the December because I had health insurance. So I thought if I have the insurance, I might as well. And I really was curious what is in the north. And it seems so exotic because I lived in Australia and I've been to Tasmania several times. So the Antarctic. And I was like, I want to know what's in the Arctic now, the other side. it seemed like the opposite. So really radical difference. I said, okay, I wish I can travel. I don't have so much money, but I have a whole month time. So I started to search for just some cabin in the woods, some place I can stay, give myself mental space also after the studies were intense, working with clients first time in the mental health field. So it was a good idea. I think that I came, I found this cabin here in Ivalo, just outside of Ivalo, and through the Airbnb website.
Okay.
So I messaged the lady and I said, is it okay that I rent it? And she said that, did you read it? That is no electricity and there is no water and it's December, so it's going to be dark. Can you handle it? Are you sure you want to handle it? And I said, yes, I need this challenge. There's just a furnace, so I'm using wood for heating. It's a möki. It's a house.
I actually saw a video on your YouTube channel about your stay here, but let's hear about it more. Mm-hmm. How was your first stay here? It was in the middle of the winter.
Yeah, the heart of the winter. It was dark. But I was also really wanted to see the auroras. So, of course, I had already come a few times before that to Rovaniemi to visit for couple of times. First time just 2 nights, and next time it was for a week for my breaks during the almost a week placement breaks. But I never saw them. So I said to myself, okay, if I stay 1 month for sure I'm gonna see them, and if I go more north for sure. And so I was quite stubborn about that. But it seemed it worked well. I mean, it was more expensive than now I am paying because it was only for 1 month. Now I have a 6-month agreement, but it was a good idea to come and to make this follow my heart, kind of the calling to get away from everything.
So how did the stay go? Because you said you didn't have electricity and no running water.
Yes. Well, I wanted to challenge myself, I guess, and
did you also actually get COVID during
Yes,
that
I did.
time?
I had COVID, and it was okay. I had tested. I got positive, so I came back from the hospital and was in isolation for 10 days. I was a bit scared in the beginning because I had fever and some strange sensations, like my hand was going numb for no reason. I was calling the nurses. Is it okay that I am am I dying here? Am I going to have a stroke now? What is happening with me? But it was normal. I recovered, and it was not there was a social worker that they sent to check on me. So I was alone, I guess you can say, in the forest in the middle of the winter with COVID. But it was okay. I survived. Not so big deal, I guess.
So you probably did some deep thinking about life.
I did, actually. Yes, I did. And I called all my friends. I made peace with everybody, with myself. Mm-hmm. And I came to like the darkness. I didn't like the darkness, actually, when I came. It was quite uncomfortable. I don't mind the cold. I do the cold swimming with the Wim Hof method. So I like the cold. And I used to go outside, warm up a little bit of water and wash myself because there's no shower, obviously. And I used to walk, spend a lot of time in the forest, even in the darkness. But I was just always scared of the dark, especially in the forest. Of course, there's neighbors, if anything, but somehow first little while I was... And then when I started to notice the moon, that is so bright and is so like the sun. There's shadows from the trees, there's light. You can walk in the forest with the moonlight. So it started to give me courage, and I became appropriating that, making it my own.
You found some peace in the darkness.
Yes, I made peace. And the auroras, of course, finally saw them. That everything was kind of discovering this world of mystery. I guess it became like a mystery to be solved and not like something to fear. I didn't feel that fear.
And you also had to warm the water for dishes and laundry.
Of course.
And of course you made food on fire.
Yes, I had the furnace, so the top of the furnace is like a stove. So, and I also wrap potatoes in foil, put them in the fire on the hot coal. So that worked also on the hot wood. So it also worked really good. but it's in the summer it's impossible because it's so hot. You can't really use that.
Yes, of
But in
course.
the winter, you are warming up twice a day anyway, so you are heating it, so it's hot. You just put the pot on top and boil something. Or
So where are you cooking now that is summer?
well, now I'm spending time on the lake, so there I can just make a fire or use the gas stoves near the open cabins.
So is this the kind of lifestyle that you now want to live for a longer time?
Well, I have to say I really fall in love with the nature here. I learned that I have this really need for being outside and being connected with the nature. It's a bit challenging because finding work is hard. I think most people who love this nature and want to stay here, they struggle with that work situation here that I've but I have a need that I didn't know I had for this connection with the wilderness, with the animals, with the nature, with myself. So there's a space that was always I tried to ignore, and I realized I need to embrace it as giving time to myself in the nature.
And how has your perception about Lapland changed from when you first time came here and now that you have been here for quite a while? So let's talk about the first impression.
Okay.
How was it when you first came here?
So of course when I came in December last year, I didn't know anybody, and I only knew the owner of the cabin, who was not even here. She lives far from somewhere else. And I only knew one girl who helped me to make the fire first time in the like neighbor, and then she was busy with her things. So it was first I was really tired when I came from, and I was very anxious because I have lived through the COVID lockdowns in Lithuania, and I was alone a lot, but in the city alone felt painful. It felt it was destructive inside. It was destroying me. It was just very different experience of the time alone than when now I have come to connect with nature, connect with myself more, make peace with myself. I think this silence, this is different.
So was it like that from the first moment when you arrived here? You quite fast felt like this is the place where I should be. This is the place where I feel.
It actually was,
peaceful.
yes. Although it didn't make any sense because I didn't have work. Of course, I still had the savings from the scholarship money, and I didn't see myself coming back here. But I felt like I will come back, so I had to go back in end of December last year. First days of January, I went back, but I just really didn't let it go. I think something just called me to come back, so I cannot explain.
So you went back and you couldn't get it out of your mind that
Yes.
you want to come back.
Yes. I also made one friend, this Sami girl, who left a big impression also towards the last days, and she showed me more about the lifestyle here, how people live, and how it's the sauna, real sauna, and how it's the connections, how they celebrate the New Year together. And it was, I don't know, I think talking to her also helped me a lot to realize that maybe there is my desire. Actually, I really want to go back, and I thought it made no sense, but somehow it worked out that...
Let's talk about that somehow. How difficult was it actually to...
Good question. The studies went online for the last semester for me. So my main thing is that I was a student, so those 4 semesters, and just 1 semester left after the Erasmus exchange. So I came back because everything was online. So I was able to just continue writing my thesis, and did my final exam online. So the Ivalo library, which is beautiful, it really gives the space. It gives you internet, it gives you the charging possibility, and the staff helpful to find any books, anything. Like really, that was a really good for me environment where I could come and work on the thesis. Basically, I wrote my whole thesis at the Ivalo library.
I was actually supposed to congratulate you. Let's everybody congratulate you for graduating to be a psychologist.
Yes. Thank you.
Is that something you keep in mind while you are here? Like, do you observe? I mean, you are already interested in psychology, and is that something you observe when you are here? From what kind of remarks would you make about the people here?
I find that people have families and they're quite close to each other. And I think maybe anthropologically speaking, this is how it's been preserved, the culture, because not so many outsiders are let in easily. I would imagine that to build like a community around me, it would take years to have like a strong community of friends around, or even my own family. It would take quite a while to establish these bonds with people. And I think one of the reasons why it's also been a bit difficult is the language, of course. I am understanding now the basics, but it's not, of course, I'll never be maybe so fluent.
But people here actually speak quite well if they are not shy English.
Yes, I was surprised about that. Quite a few are curious, interested, but to be really friends, I think it takes difficulties you need to overcome together, and I think you need to have the reason, because some people just maybe don't need this. Maybe there's always this thought that maybe this person can leave anytime, so they don't invest their effort to build this friendship or relationship. But I think people who got to know me, they understood that I am very open for the possibility to stay here all the time, to live here, make this my home, which it is now, but it's been 6 months basically since I first came, and maybe the home is it's a big word to use now. I feel like it's my home, but I still don't have the stability, the work, the things that I need to.
Yes,
haven't bought an actual home.
It would require for you to have a work here if you would like to stay to live for a longer time.
But I must say that I just graduated, so I just went back to Lithuania for the presenting of thesis and for pick up the diploma. So really it just happened in July. So now, in June. So it was in June all this, and now in July it's just taking a little break and applying for jobs. So it also will depend if I stay or not. If I need to go more south or somewhere to look for work.
Maybe there will be more possibilities to work in English in South than here.
That's possible, yes. There is also possibilities that the government offers, like learning the language with the integration program, and so you get a little bit of financial support for that. So that could be also some option there for me, not just working full time.
Maybe here on the tourist business you could work in English, but if you want to work on psychology area, then maybe South will provide more possibilities.
Yes, I think for now my focus is learning Finnish. So, but I also speak Lithuanian, Russian, Spanish fluently because I grew up in Mexico. So Finnish is my 6th language actually. So if I learn the Finnish, I think I'll have a lot of opportunities for clients. But for now, just looking for season work.
Anybody who wants to hire you will like the ability of you talk in so many languages.
Yes, I hope for tourism this can be beneficial.
Let's go to that later. You said you grew up in Mexico, and
Yes.
I guess we can talk about that in the end.
Sure.
But let's stay here in Lapland. So we talked about people. Then what do you think about the landscapes and the nature, the beauty of it?
I was very impressed in December already, in the darkness, with the moon, with the auroras, with what it was doing to me psychologically and spiritually, how I connected. That was impressive. But and then so I returned for a few months to Lithuania, and then I came back in March, and really the difference between December and March was already huge because it was so much more snow. Just to walk to my mökki from the road, it's like 500 meters. It took me a couple of hours because the snow was so deep. It was like half waist up to my waist. Yes.
So it is really in the forest.
Yes, it is. Yes. So that was a challenge, and eventually ended up asking neighbors to drive their snowmobile in that area, and then the snow got crushed a little bit, so it became harder, and I could walk on it. So it was helping that. But that, yes, there's a lot of kind of mystery for me in the forest. There is energy I cannot describe with words. And the spring was amazing. The waking up of the Arctic, freezing, like frozen for so long, everything hidden for so long, and there were just surprises popping up when the snow started melting. I found, there used to be a fireplace here. It's like, this used to be like a little dog training, because I lived in a husky farm. So that you start to see these little things popping up from the snow. And then I saw the berries from last year. Also, they were starting to, I was like, where does this blueberry come from? It felt like the snow came out of nowhere. Suddenly it just covered everything for 7 months, and then suddenly it just started melting. It's like picks up where it left off. Kind of.
And how do you feel now when it's daylight, almost daylight, 24/7?
At first it was interesting, then it was challenging, and now I got used to it.
So you can sleep without any problems. And
I cover my eyes. I don't. For a while I was wearing sunglasses before bed, hoping that will kind of get my brain to start to, but now I got used to it, I think.
And you also didn't have any problems during the winter, to like when the day didn't come, you still kept the normal day rhythm.
It's easy when you don't have work and you have your own schedule for the tasks you need to do. But if I needed to wake up at an exact time, I think it would be challenging.
Do you haven't actually saw autumn yet?
No. I was last August. I was in Helsinki, so these 3 months coming up, I haven't been to Lapland. Yes.
So I'm not going to ask yet which season is your favorite. I had something in mind.
Can I say some more things about the people?
Sure.
That I also think. I really enjoy seeing the authentic relationships here. I experienced the Australian culture quite profoundly. I lived there for 6 years before the pandemic started. And then I returned to Lithuania to study for the 2 years. And the plan was to go back to Australia after that. But I had forgotten almost how it is similar Lithuanian culture with the Finnish culture, that they are very direct people, and if they don't like something, they say it. That the word no is part of the vocabulary. In Australia, it is not. It's a lot more always maybe, a lot of no clear boundary. And I find about myself, I am more at home here, more natural feeling. To really say what I want to say, to be a real person, a true self, like in psychology we use this term, when I can be blunt, when I can be, respectfully blunt, but I feel more myself in this kind of environment than in the other culture. It was very good for me to come here to realize that.
So Lithuanian people and people here, they somehow compare regards to this aspect. They can say no and
Of course.
be authentic.
And be okay with that. That if something is no, it's a no. Okay, you can live with that. But in Australia, it's somehow an offense to say no. I don't understand. It's just the Anglo-Saxon kind of maybe taken up from the British culture, that it's really have to be super polite, a lot of pleases, a lot of thank yous. And I've even worked with British kids, looking after them, and the parents really ask me to remind the kids everything, say every time, thank you, please, thank you, please. In Finnish language doesn't even have the word please. But there is something authentic that if you're really grateful, you can still show it, you can still say it. It doesn't have to be just with words, doesn't have to be with these specific words, and there's more options.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking, let's take a break here and come back and talk more about different cultures around the world. You have traveled a lot and lived in different places, so let's come back to that after a break.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So now let's talk about some adventures you had around the world. You traveled a lot and lived in different places. But let's start from the adventure of the lake adventure you had here. You made a fishing net yourself.
With some help.
And now you tested it.
Yes.
And you actually caught some fish with it.
Yes. I think it was a grayling, yes.
How did it feel? You made the net with your own hands and then went out and caught something to eat with it.
It's a good feeling.
It's a primal feeling.
Yes. It is.
Did you do that before?
No, never. No, I never even held a fishing rod before coming here.
And have you gone hunting here?
No, I think I'd need a bit more training for that to be able.
But you are interested to learn that also?
Sure, the opportunity happens, it would be interesting to know about how it works.
But it's not the season yet, so you will have to wait for the autumn for that.
Good point.
When the fishing stops in autumn and the hunting starts. So
I think fishing is all seasons, right?
Not on the river. In the river, it's forbidden in autumn until until middle of December. But at the lake, you are allowed to fish.
Yes.
Throughout the year.
Yes. I helped my friend in the winter for the winter fishing. That was very interesting also to see how they make the ice holes and put the nets connecting underneath the ice. It was great to see how people can be so creative to find ways to get food.
Did you get your hands to the water and pull up the net from the freezing water?
But you wear the gloves, so it's not so bad like it sounds.
And you also do the Wim Hof method, so you will be you will stand the cold.
With the help of the breathing, you can control better.
But you have also had lots of adventures around the world, so let's hear. You lived in Mexico.
Yes.
How long and what did you do while there?
So my mom is a violinist, so I traveled with her around the world. So the identity, I guess, is the third culture kid. Have you heard of that term?
No.
That's the kids of the military, diplomats, missionaries, or musicians in my case. So children travel with the parents for their work, and they get to see a lot of the world, but experience a lot of instability because life environment is changing all the time, and of course relationships suffer because of it as well, and it's very often they don't have like strong roots.
So you also feel more like you are citizen of the world,
Yes,
not any
global
particular.
citizen. Yeah.
Yes,
That's why my channel is called Global Identity.
yes.
Defines you in a way. Mhm.
Let's have a link for your YouTube channel in the description.
Sure.
Check it out. So Mexico. What did you
Yes, so
do?
in Mexico, I came as a kid. I was 7 when I arrived, and I lived until I was 15.
Mhm.
So first year, I was not allowed to go to school because I didn't speak any Spanish. So I was at home playing mostly video games and watching soap operas. And learning the language and making friends, getting to know people, helping mom, and just being as much as possible there, growing up in the backstage of the theater. And my mom opened a music school, so I was there helping a lot.
Mhm.
But also, well, as a kid, you just do what you're told mostly. But eventually started to go to school and going through that puberty time of life. And
Did you also attend to your mom's music school?
yes, I helped. But as a kid, you can only do so much. But still, I did. I enjoyed it. That.
Have you played any instruments?
Yes, a little bit of violin, a little bit of piano, some guitar.
Mhm.
So I did do that work. But Mexico has been like very different also, because after Mexico we went to Canada, and the radical again change of the cultures.
Mhm.
Mexico, even the people, they are like short like me. They're approachable, very warm, very emotionally connected, engaged. And of course Canada felt like a land of white tall giants. Coming into high school, all the girls are taller than me, and they are only concerned for impressing the guys, and I was at home still at 15 playing with dolls. So you can see Barbie dolls, and I have played my video games and my habits of a completely different life.
Did you move to north of Canada or
Into Toronto.
Toronto, okay.
We lived
And
just
which city in Mexico did you live?
near the Arctic Ocean, Colima. But we moved to a few. Near the Pacific Ocean. What am I talking? So in Mexico, we lived near the Pacific Ocean in a city called Colima. It's the one I remember the best.
Mhm.
But also I lived in other places, Guanajuato and Querétaro. So we were moving a little bit depending on the work contract that my mom had at that time.
You lived near the ocean.
Near the ocean.
Did you
Not far.
Did you grow up surfing?
No, it wasn't that close. We used to go for the weekends. There's a
Mm.
big resort called Las Hadas in Manzanillo. It's like a very big place. We used to go there for weekends. Get a lot of activities for kids.
So moving from there to Toronto, it was a big change.
Huge change, yes. And the climate, I hadn't seen the snow for 6 years.
Yes.
Very different.
So what did you went through high school in Toronto?
Yes.
And
And then I moved back. I did a lot of searching about my identity, who I am I really Lithuanian. We were very connected with the Lithuanian community there in Canada.
how much do you actually remember your life in Lithuania from the childhood years?
I remember some things. It was kind of a bit like old-fashioned, you could say. There were no mobile phones. We wrote letters to my grandmother. They used to take sometimes weeks to get, and to get some news. It's pretty hard. And phone calls, they existed, but they were expensive. And you use the landlines, and you have to wait for the operator to connect you. It feels like another era. Nowadays, it would be so different if I...
And you stayed in Toronto for how long?
8 years.
8 years, and then you go where?
I went back to Lithuania. So actually, it was a a bit of dramatic situation and very sad situation that one of my friends committed suicide. And at that time I made a decision that I don't fit in there also. And I really struggled in Canada. I didn't feel at home. I felt very, how I can say, maybe a little bit like how I felt in Australia sometimes, constrained emotionally, very tense and very stressed and anxious, and couldn't really feel free to be myself, to say what I really want to say, to have my opinions. I somehow felt always like that I have to be a certain kind of person to fit in.
At which point did you move away from your parents? Was it in Toronto or was it first time you living alone in Lithuania?
It was already in Canada because my mom sent me to a boarding school, so I was quite independent there. And after that I started university and I was on my own there. So from 18 I was alone, renting and studying a couple of years before returning to Lithuania.
And it was a good decision to come back. You started to feel better in Lithuania.
Well, yes and no. So, of course, we shape an image of things when we are not in the present. Like, grass is greener on the other side. Or, like here, people say about the Norway that the snow is whiter on the other side. Right, I heard. So, I had a bit of an image of what Lithuania is really like. That it's this beautiful place where you are at home. There's all these cultural traditions. But when I went back, actually life had changed so much. My grandmother had died. My family had not been speaking. Not very close connections with them anymore.
Did your grandparents visit you while you were living in Mexico and Toronto?
No, my grandma wanted, but she was kind of scared because of her health and kind of not sure if she wanted to do the financial kind of things also.
Did you go to Lithuania while you were in?
Yes, I went back every summer. So all my summers I spent in Lithuania, from Mexico or from Canada. Well, I think a couple of summers we skipped, but most of them were there.
So you end up to Lithuania, and how long are you staying there, and what do you do?
Yeah, so in Lithuania, I went back. I started studying opera singing. And just working McDonald's jobs. It was quite hard. It was a lot harder than I expected. And I didn't really like it, the music studies, as much as I thought I would. So I just worked, and about 10 years of that. I give up Canadian citizenship to become Lithuanian, because you cannot have both. So then I really... I decided that I want to stay there. I was very stubborn. For 10 years I did my best, but the jobs, they taught me also a lot of skills that I think is good to have. Even now I'm looking for jobs in tourism, right? Like I'm used to working in service sector and hospitality, so in tourism. So I worked in those fields. So that was good, I guess, in the way. But it was difficult because there were not so many connections as I expected, and the grass was not so green on the other side like I was thinking.
And from Lithuania you go to Australia and Tasmania.
Yes.
How was your stay there?
There I was engaged in a relationship, so we both decided to go to Australia to work for a few years. So it was a bit different. I was not just traveling alone. So it was, I realized when people travel with a group or with a family, it's very different for them. Like when I was a kid going to Mexico and all these places, I was alone basically, right? So my mom sends me off to school and I'm on my own doing my own life. And when people travel as a group and they're very closely somehow tied, it doesn't feel so isolated. You still preserve the culture that you're from. So that's that's the big difference. For example, children of diplomats or the military, they travel in groups and they have even accommodation provided. You get a lot of even support how to integrate into the culture. And when you're on your own, you just do everything yourself, exploring this culture, making mistakes, learning the language, and enduring some people mocking you. You don't even know they're mocking you because you don't understand the language, and trying to fit in, doing the right things, the wrong things to become part of something else. Or not, to know yourself, and then having that difference. Okay, this is not me. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to remain myself. Stick to my values, stick to what is. You learn about yourself in these challenging situations.
Yes, traveling and moving around definitely teaches you something about yourself and others.
Yes.
And how much did you move around while you were living in these places? But did you also go and travel to other places, like just travel?
Not too much, just traveling for fun. It was always more like exploring places to see if I could live there, work opportunities, or interesting work opportunities, because there can be financial motivation, but
so you had many different kind of jobs on the way.
Yes, but I think it's very important for a person to find this job that gives them meaning, satisfaction, and purpose to be more than just the money. So that was maybe a drive that I always had, why I changed places and looked at different cities and different places.
And your search is still continuing. Now you are trying out the option of
nature guide, maybe.
Yes, and maybe after you learn some more Finnish, you will find more opportunities to
maybe open private practice, maybe do some more work experience, internship, maybe.
If you would open your private practice, how would it be? Like, what is your dream about that?
Well, I would like to work privately with clients as a counselor, as a psychologist. Helping where it's the need the most. If it's addictions or mental health issues or relationships, what I can find the field that is most needed. I think nowadays with the war in Ukraine, maybe some extra training in trauma counseling, I think it can be useful, helpful. So I'm always searching for the place where what is needed the most, and try to fill in the gaps, the niches.
Yes, and you for sure know the statistics of Finland having very high rates of suicide and alcoholism and this kind of things.
Yes. Very similar to Lithuania, actually. It's also the top of the charts. I think maybe Finland even more than Lithuania.
Yeah, I guess so. How was your, like, the what's the word? Can you tell more about the training to become a psychologist? Or, like, are you focused on some? Have you specialized on some particular thing?
So in psychology, we had to choose between several subfields, but because in Lithuania it's still very new branches, new things, still quite new. So I chose neuropsychology to specialize, so more like about the biological aspect of the brain, how it connects to the behaviors, so what part of the brain is affected, and how this relates to how we are, how we think, how we behave. But again, we were the first generation of neuropsychologists in Lithuania. So we were taught by medical doctors, by I think a social worker. So different specialists came together to give us this program that help us to understand more how we can what we can do, how we can work. There was a neurosurgeon, there was a psychoanalyst, there was it was really interesting to hear these very experienced professors who taught in from their point of view and trying to give us this idea what a neuropsychologist should do. But it is still very new. And
which year was this?
This year, 2022.
So
I graduated this year, and this was
yes. But when did it start? You said you were the first class to.
Right. It's 2021 when I started my studies. We were the first group.
So it took 2 years.
Yes, 2 years for the masters. Yes.
So what was your education before that? You had went to the high school and then.
Yeah, in Canada I studied psychology, but I didn't finish my studies. I had to work, and later, several years later, I was working as an au pair in a family, and I met a very inspirational family member, the mother of the kids, who really suggested I go back to study. So I went back and I did a full 4 years online in psychology.
When did you see it clearly that you want to work on that field? Like did you always have it as a dream, or it came later?
Yeah, I always was interested in the people and their behaviors, and they're so complex, and so that's what makes it interesting, right? If it's clear, if it's easy, then it can be quite repetitive and
yes.
not so interesting. Yeah, I think I always wanted to study psychology. I was drawn into that, and eventually I just had to make a choice. In Australia, I was working as assistant nurse for 5 years almost, but I didn't see myself there forever. It was like a stage of life, and now I think it's pretty clear that I wanted to do something that requires wisdom. I wanted to have wisdom, and I wanted to I just really see skills and interests come together in this field for me.
So now that you have graduated, what kind of, because you are still interested in, of course, so what kind of sources of study you use now?
For now, I'm just taking a break. I'm gonna pick some berries.
not gathering more scientific wisdom at the moment.
Yes, no studies right now, but I think, like I said, I want to research what I can do most, and what is necessary, what types of assessments, what types of therapies are used mostly. Maybe if I stay in Lapland, I need to look more into these things. Hopefully maybe in a year or so I can think of something.
And you will learn a lot about the therapeutic aspects of being in nature.
Yes.
So maybe you will integrate that to your private practice then.
Yes, maybe. Maybe some wellness center.
Yes.
Yes, we'll see. Of course, everything relies also on finances, so I have to also, that's the idea, that this winter I'm working, saving money and learning Finnish and thinking through the options, what to do in the future.
So what are your plans for the next couple of months? You said you will go and pick up some berries.
Yes, continue to soak up the goodness from Lapland, and and searching for work for the winter season. And I guess for the next few months I'm just taking a break and thinking through for future plans that can connect my hobbies with my career.
Sounds good. So you said you can maybe play some guitar for us.
Yes.
We can try to.
Maybe need to practice a few times before.
Yes, let's record something.
Let's try.
Okay. So we will include the link in the description for your YouTube channel, so go and see that. And we will start to tune up the guitar.
Try.
So let's say bye-bye for everybody.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thank you for listening. And thank you to Ozzy for taking this interview.
Thank you, Aušra.
Renkuosi tave, kai vėjas supykęs nešioja lapus. Renkuosi tave, kai lietus užtvindo kelius į namus. Renkuosi tave, nes meilė pati surado mane. Todėl renkuosi aš meilę tavyje. Renkuosi ryto ramybę pasaulio triukšmo rate. Renkuosi atpažinti šviesą tamsoje. Renkuosi kelią į gelmę, surasti gyvybės prasmės. Renkuosi priimti, ką meilė mums duos be išimties. Renkuosi perbrist upelį ar jūrą perplaukt skersai, kad išsaugoti, ką meilė dovanojo man vienai. Renkuosi nepasisavint, o kasdieną už viską dėkot, kad gyvenimo metams sutemus galėtume laimingi miegot. Renkuosi tave, nes meilė pati surado mane. Todėl renkuosi aš meilę tavyje. Mira mis ojos y lo entenderás. No tengo nada que ofrecerte, solo mi amor y mi sinceridad. Con mi cariño y siempre guardo en silencio una fe de ti, una esperanza humilde, que volverás a estar junto a mí, y en un suspiro decirme, a donde sea que yo vaya, no importa la distancia a la que esté, aunque el tiempo nos separe, siempre estaré junto a ti. Si al volver dices no sientes que entre nosotros todo acabó, contestaré que me mientes, pues en ti está mi amor. Solo el tiempo sabe la verdad. ¿Dónde estaré cuando vuelvas? ¿Y cuántos días vuelvan a pasar hasta que encuentre mi fe? A donde sea que yo vaya, no importa la distancia a la que esté, estaré junto a ti. Siempre estaré junto a ti. Siempre estaré